Gentlemen, if I can ask you, first of all, what is it about the championship? What makes the championship for each and every one of you?
Marty, I suppose there's no doubt about it. Championship is what we're all brought up with and for, and it's a test. And it's what you represent, where you're from, and how can you stand the test, I suppose.
Is it everything to you, Pat McEnany, as a referee, as the championship comes round the corner now?
I'm no different than the player, I'm no different than the manager, I'm no different than the fan, you know. You can make 3 or 4 errors in a league game, in a national league game as a referee, and, nobody thinks about them a week later. But you make a mistake in a championship match and, well, they never forget it, do they?
Luke Dempsey, you're manager of Carlow. Leinster Championship, open draw, qualifiers. Why would you want to be Carlow senior football manager?
Inter-county management is what I really enjoy. You're meeting the best players, you're working with county boards that you can form a relationship with, and in that regard, when I was asked to manage Carlow, the fact I grew up there, and actually I'm managing sons of some of the lads I played football with myself when I was down there. It's a very simple question to answer in that regard, Marty.
I'm really looking forward to this year's championship because, everyone's coming in with a clean bill of health. Managers knows what's required now, players knows what's required, and more important, referees know what's required now.
But Pat, let me make this point. John Evans, Pat McEnany, Luke and Marty, they referee the same match. And the problem, I would suggest, with managers, players and supporters is that the 4 of us would referee that match differently.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, no question about that. Yeah.
But the only thing is,
there's 4 different characters here. There's 4 different. Luke is right.
Case, though. I mean, the rules are the rules. You follow the rules. The problem is there's inconsistency.
Pat refereed Cork and Kerry last year, the replay, and for the first 7 or 8 minutes of that game, I remember it so well. I don't think he blew the whistle. And what I looked was that Cork were getting the feel and Kerry were getting the feel of the referee, but so was the referee getting a feel of the game. But funny enough, he kept that consistency to the 71st, 72nd minute. What you normally see is referee is blowing everything for the first 10 minutes and he tries to settle down the team, and he's totally inconsistent in the last 10.
Did the referee see us as intentional? He obviously did. It's a second yellow and Cork lose a man.
I think there's about 3 or 4 things that makes up a referee. Ability to communicate, number 1 priority. To be able to communicate with players in an occasion that's a lot of tension, a lot of passion going, and it's your ability to get them boys through 70 minutes.
OK, let me bring you back then to the All-Ireland semi-final last year. Down against Kildare.
Yeah.
Square ball called by most people except your umpire or yourself.
Yeah.
Clark gets the return eventually. Goes for a ball in, a dangerous ball, and it's in the net! Do you acknowledge that was a mistake, and how quickly did you realise it was a mistake?
At half-time, absolutely. When I turned round to the big screen, I was back out in the middle of the field when that happened. Like, if I had to be a little bit cuter, to stay inside and have a look at the screen, tell nobody about it, it would have eased a lot of pain on me, I can tell you. And I'm sure Kildare supporters would say it would ease a lot of pain on them. But, hey, these things happen in football, and you've got to recover from them situations and move on.
Would you be in favour of Hawkeye?
Personally, I would be in favour of anything that enhances our game, and I think there's been an awful lot over the years. There's been an awful lot of very close calls, balls that could have been questioned. I think it works excellently in cricket, in tennis, and I think anything that enhances our game, that you could just take time out to call what is, because the amount of effort being put into coaching and training teams for a wrong call to end their year on a very controversial note. So I certainly would be in favour of it.
And it's in the back of the net. It's in the back of the net. Somebody scored it.
I'm not convinced, lads. We like a bit of controversy. People like controversy. We love to be talking on Sunday, listening to the Sunday game to see what Pat and Colin O'Rourke is going to say, or Joe Brawley, and we like that. We like that thing, and Monday morning's papers, and what's the.
What about a video referee?
Yeah, well, that's our. I mean, if you're not going to bring in Hawkeye, bring in anything that will help, is my point.
What do you stop the game for then? Right, in one game you've got, or in rugby you've got a try, a decision or a penalty or something, but there's so many scores in GA, and that's the vibrancy of the game. That's the flow of the game. That's the tempo of the game.
Put the facility in place first and then decide what. I mean, you could stop it for the Leinster final.
I just was watching actually one of the rugby matches there maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was about 5 or 6 tries scored in the match. And the referee didn't take a risk at all. He went to the TV monitor every time.
I remember it, yeah.
You know, and it, you ask yourself the question, who's refereeing the bloody game here? You know.
Okay, let's move on. Let me just talk about the way we treat some players. For instance, Paul Galvin.
He has a tempestuous sort of personality, and as such, a lot of brilliant sports people have.
You know, I can tell you from my experience, there's a few players that when they're on the ball, the whole temperature rises in the stadium. You know, you referee Cork and Kerry, Blown Park, Kiva, Killarney, and he gets on the ball, the temperature rises.
Look, if he's transgressed,
yeah, I mean, if you've been a ball boy and if the rules are broken, surely then whoever it is deserves to be punished.
He did transgress, and he'd be the first to put up his hand. But I think we're not exactly treating him right either.
Connacht, gentlemen, is it going to be Roscommon's year again? Can they defend that title?
They have excellent players now. They're a very big physical team, and I would think that they can go and win another Connacht title and really tell the GAA public that last year wasn't a fluke.
Revenge is a huge passion. It's a huge driving and motivating factor, and I think Sligo, if they're and under Kevin Walsh, are definitely going to put it up to Roscommon. On the other side, then, I did happen to see Galway playing Kerry down in Killarney, and there's a good bit of work to be done there. I don't know about Mayo, and James Horton is newly there
So give me a winner.
You know, I'm going to jump the gun, and I'm going to say Sligo to do it because they didn't do it last year.
Let's go to Ulster very briefly. Down, All-Ireland finalists. What's the feeling? What's the feeling up in Ulster? I mean,
The feeling is always, and nobody knows who's going to win it. It doesn't change up there.
I've seen nothing in Ulster to convince me that Down aren't the best team there. And from 10 to 15, they're excellent. Really good movement in the forwards.
I think you have Tyrone and Down up at a level. Yeah. And then underneath that comes Donegal, Armagh.
Monaghan have slipped, haven't they?
Yeah, but you know, Ian McEnany's done a reasonably good job. I don't think Monaghan will fear going to Tyrone, but to me, that's the level you got to get to.
Leinster, have Carlow any chance?
The draw has favoured Carlow Loud. The other half is going to be really great battles.
Kieran McGeeney, his team is sort of epitomising his own character in a way, which is that they're showing a huge resilience and consistency in the championship.
3 years ago when he went in first, Kieran, he was nearly sacked in his first year. Like. Yeah. And people were saying he was trying to impose his type of Armagh type of football on Kildare, as is the Banty McEnany with Meath, and it's not working in the front. There was a slogan going around Meath there that he was getting an award from the Queen there, the OBE. I was out before Easter. You know, and he was lucky he survived there.
Okay, winner from Leinster?
I think Dublin will come out of Leinster.
I think Pat Gilroy has done a great job last year, and we were sort of... He got a sort of a kickstart, I suppose, with Tipperary in the qualifiers in Croke Park. My big fear, of course, is that with Mr. Brogan, if he goes...
Now let's go to the province of Munster. Is it fair to say it's a two-horse race, do you think, this year's championship?
You'd be a fool to say otherwise, to be quite honest with you. Kerry have one thing. They've got 3 to 4 forwards of the highest calibre. And that's the difference. In fact, I think they have 6 forwards that you dream of. So that's what the punch is. A different little motivator that's come into Cork, I suppose, has to be the fact that not one of their forwards got an all-star. I think even the GPA didn't recognise them.
And Daniel Goulding, 9 points in All-Ireland final?
I mean, he kicked 2 glorious points from play in that normally, I mean, it was absolutely majestic looking.
John, you'd rarely see forward. I mean, not in my time watching All-Irelands, kicking 345s in an All-Ireland over the bar. He was outstanding. And how he didn't get an All-Star, I know we're just talking about that now, just defied logic.
In terms of the All-Ireland, one winner, one Sam Maguire going in whatever direction. Will it go to Munster, Connacht, Ulster, Leinster? John Evans.
At the end of the day, I'm going to go for a strange one, Kerry.
That's a real shocker, John. Pat McEnany, you'll be refereeing, so you can't.
I'll go with Monaghan.
You go with Monaghan, good. That's a safe bet. Luke Dempsey?
I think that Kerry have the players and new players that have come through and the traditions of the Sam Maguire being what they are, that I would predict that Kerry will win the All-Ireland in 2011.
John Evans, Pat McEnany, Luke Dempsey, thank you so much for joining us on League Sunday.
And that's the view from Marty's guest. Let's get the view from the studio. Tony Davis, I'm going to start with you because Cork, of course, are the All-Ireland champions. So let's start in Munster. The way it's been structured this year, if everything goes to sort of expectation, let's say,
right,
it's a Cork Kerry final.
Yeah, no disrespect to the other guys because they're going to work just as hard as anybody else. But yes, Cork and Kerry should get to the final. It's on in Killarney in the first weekend in July, which is fantastic. Now Cork going well, have a huge panel. Kerry, you can't write off Kerry. I hear people writing off Kerry, and as John said there a while ago, 5 of the 6 best forwards. You have Paul Galvin, Darren O'Sullivan, Declan O'Sullivan, Gooch, Donaghy. They'd get on any team anywhere. So they have some great forwards. And they're saying they haven't backs, but they have the lowest concession rate in Division 1 of the National League. So they have backs as well. So it'll be very hard to predict who's going to win that. When Cork and Kerry play, who knows? But I'm not too sure they care whether they'd win or lose, because if they lose, they go through the back door. They're strong enough to go through the back door.
Let's head over to your own province, Martin, over to Connacht. And the big game here, pick a big game for me.
Well, the big game obviously at the end of June, if things work to form, will be Galway and Mayo. And that's a game like Galway have, you know, created a new midfield pairing, I think. You know, Finian Hanley's come out from full back to play there. And I just have a feeling that they're going to, if they can get their midfield right, they'll be difficult to beat. But Mayo have discovered this guy, Jason Doherty, during the league. He scored 7 goals, I think, in the National League. Great finisher. But next weekend in New York, Roscommon are going out there to play New York. Now, if you get 30 degrees heat there next weekend, I believe an improved New York team from what it was last year. On the evidence of what we saw yesterday from Roscommon, they were underwhelming, they were lethargic, they could be in real trouble if they repeat that performance next weekend.
And this is coming up obviously very quick on top of them as well. Let me take you, Tony, over to Leinster, because this is an interesting one obviously over there, and you know the one side of the draw is very strong, and the other side gives a chance.
Kildare, Meath, Laois and Dublin on one side. You know, I suppose your favourites would still have to be Dublin even after today. I think Dublin will still be favourites, and on that side Kildare are there as well, so that would be very strong on that side. On the other side, I'd love to see Louth come through from the other side and get through to a Leinster final again and try and make up for last year. But Dublin are still my favourites, even though I suppose we saw what happened Mayo last year when they were beaten in the league final. But I don't think that'll happen to Dublin.
Martin, we saw an Ulster County in the All-Ireland final, of course, last year in September with Down. Can you see another county getting that far again from the north?
Well, I can see Down going the same distance again. Now, an awful lot will depend on whether they can get a better backline and whether they can keep Benny Coulter healthy.
Yes.
Now, they're playing Armagh, as far as I know, in the first round of the championship. If they win that game, they play the winners of Derry and Fermanagh. And Derry missing Paddy Bradley will be very vulnerable. The other side of the draw, a team rarely wins from coming from the preliminary round. Donegal are playing Antrim there on the 15th of May. But if I was to give a winner in Ulster, I would go for Tyrone. I think there's a kick left in them yet, even though Mickey is still staying with a lot of the experienced player. I still think if he can knit in 1 or 2 new players from his under-21 teams over the last few years, they will give the All-Ireland a right go of it this year.
It would make an extraordinary story in the north, wouldn't it? Okay, that's where we're going to have to leave it.